Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Eurocities Mobility Forum, where over the next 3 days, urban mobility practitioners, urban planners, experts, and policymakers will be exchanging ideas, sharing best practices, and driving the transition towards a more sustainable urban mobility. The forum is organized by the Eurocities network and hosted by the city of Madrid. So you may catch me wandering down the Paseo del Prado, Gran Via, or having a café con leche on Plaza Mayor. And that would be me choosing to go on foot, which is surely the most sustainable and healthiest choice in line with the theme of the forum. But at a time where there has never been so many alternative modes of transport in a city, whether it's underground or overground, including the onset of flying vehicles, on rails, roads, lanes, or pedestrianized areas, electric or motorized, man-powered or unmanned vehicles, public or private options, and at a time where there has never been as much data available on all sorts of environmental or behavioral indicators, urban mobility carries today an increasing responsibility in playing its part in meeting the challenges faced by cities, whether in relation to climate change, air and noise pollution, safety, accessibility, or urban space management, to name but a few. But urban mobility is also a topic that cuts across the public-urban space. Transforming the way we move and connect places in a city is not just a question of urban design or urban planning. It largely determines the use of space in a city. And that's a matter of governance, but also of engagement with citizens, which is why these occasions are so important to show what is possible, to inspire change, and to address common challenges. Only over the course of today, we will be hearing from no less than 7 different cities, and will be joined by leading policymakers from the European Commission. And over the next 2 days, there is a rich program. So this is clearly an important stop on the journey to destination climate neutral cities, time to move greener and healthier. Of course, I strongly encourage you to get involved in the discussion by raising your comments and questions in the chat. I will be monitoring those and will do my best to raise them in the course of our debates. But please do not feel frustrated if I am not able to do so. Because when we're online, the interaction in the chat is just as important as the interaction between the speakers. So let me also extend this welcome to the people joining us on the Eurocities YouTube channel, as the event is currently being live streamed there as well. And now, for the official launch of the Eurocities Mobility Forum, I have the honor of introducing Borja Carabante Muntada, Councillor of Environment and Mobility from the City of Madrid and Vice Chair of the Eurocities Mobility Forum. And he will be giving us the welcome for the day. Borja, over to you.
Muchas gracias por permitir a Madrid, en este caso a mí personalmente, a participar en
Hello from Madrid, and it's a great honor to participate in this event with you.
Como decía, por elegir a Madrid y en segundo lugar saludar también a la secretaria general y al presidente del Foro de Movilidad de Eurocities y a las 140 ciudades que forman parte de este encuentro. La sostenibilidad
and it's a great honor to be with everybody who's part of this event. The fight against contamination is very important in all big cities and also here in Madrid. Madrid has an overall sustainability strategy because it wants to give an overall vision. As for contamination, we are determined in Madrid to fight this fight hard, and Madrid is the second biggest city in Europe as for population, for the number of people that live there. We have lots of parking spaces, and we also need to develop economically, and we also want to move towards a more ecological form of movement. So we also really promote public transport, so we have free ways of moving around Madrid. There's also lots of new ways which we're really promoting, such as going by bike, and we also keep in mind that electric mobility is very important in urban settings, and we want to promote these types of movement over the more contaminating ones. And we want to fight for this, and we want to fight against the harmful emissions. And we're going to forbid certain things to be part of this fight. In any case, this sustainability policy is based on these main points, but it also wants to work with these 3 initiatives. It's very important, the quality of the air, and which Madrid has to fight against contamination and promoting sustainability, as I said before. And we're going to take this, and we're also going to focus on the need of using electric transport in both the public and private sector before the 1st of January, and we're working on the air quality, and we're also going to try new forms of sustainable mobility, and therefore we're going towards a policy which is against the most contaminating forms of mobility, and we're going to start using ones which are less polluting in our new mobility policies. So we're looking after the quality of the air and moving towards more sustainable forms of mobility. Recently, we have been very committed to working towards more climate neutrality, and we're really working to reduce the greenhouse effect gases. We're very ambitious in this aspect for working towards more sustainable mobility. We're very aware that the fight against climate change can only be successful if all cities really face up to this challenge. We are really responsible for over 70% of the harmful emissions, and so the town halls are very committed to this. I don't want to go on anymore, but I wanted to show how serious we are about this and how all of the citizens of Madrid are with working towards sustainability. And I'd like to thank, on behalf of all of the citizens of Madrid, and I'd like to say how grateful we are to be part of this meeting today, which is part of the sustainability and part of such an important issue such as sustainability in terms of mobility.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Borja. The challenge that you set is high, and I hope that this Eurocities Mobility Forum will help you get further ideas for Madrid, but also that your colleagues will also be bringing ideas into the debate from Madrid. So thanks a lot for that introduction. And I now turn to Ana Lisa Boni. She is Secretary General of Eurocities, and we will have a little exchange with you as well as the opening to this session, because above urban mobility is the more general issue of climate change and sustainability. We have the context of the European Green Deal that sets an ambitious scene for urban mobility, but also many other policies and areas of importance to cities. The EU having set this goal of becoming the first climate neutral continent by 2050, what do you think is the role of cities in helping the EU achieve that goal, Annalisa?
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks, Jean-Paul. Thanks a lot, and it's great to have you back with us again. Great. So, hello to Councillor Carabante, and a big thank you, Madrid, for hosting us these days. I would also like to be in Plaza Mayor and everyone, and all the places you mentioned, Jean-Paul. And of course, a huge hello to all our 60, 70, 80, I don't know how many members, 100 members that are connected this morning here with us. I'm really, really happy to open this event, to be part of the opening of this event, and very happy to be here, even if just on a screen. Fingers crossed, next year we'll make it in Rio. So back to your question, Jean-Paul, climate neutrality, can we call it Mission Impossible 2050 or no? Let's make it possible, actually. So 2050, yes. Well, the role of cities. Well, cities cover only 3% of the land on Earth, so it's nothing. But they produce 72% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. So that said, you have said it all. I mean, the concentration is there. If you think just of Europe, because that's where we are, it is estimated on top of that by 2050, almost 85% of the population will be living in cities. So all the challenges, connected to mobility, energy consumptions, air pollution that the councillor mentioned, climate adaptation, and all, you name it, they all concentrate in cities. But on the other side, we know that it is in cities that many of those challenges find a sort of innovative and ambitious, the most ambitious actually, solutions, policy responses, programs, ideas, and, so they actually do happen, they are happening already, and they will continue to happen in the future. So, and also concerning the population, because there's, the majority of population living there, we know that if we act with people and through people as agents of change, then the impact can be even bigger, and so really huge. So where best you want to go to tackle the climate emergency than in cities, with citizens and cities, in the local ecosystems? Yours was a silly question, Jean-Paul. I'm joking. No, but what I want to say is that the pandemic has given a boost to this role, to the role of cities, because in a way it has redefined, we've seen it with our own eyes, it has redefined the limits of what is possible in cities and what we can change in terms of actually what we can change rapidly in cities. And so while local public services have been, are, and will continue, unluckily, to be stretched, because of all the situation and to support people, to support local businesses and everything, city administrations are really seizing the opportunity to enact rapid change, positive change, and so on. And days like these are perfect because, that's how we've been witnessing actually all these changes through Eurocities. Look at how many cities have, what they've done in terms of pushing soft modes by, cycle lanes, but not only, a lot of other things. So yeah, it's really about making it clear in these days, in days like these, making it clear that if you channel the energy in cities, and when I say energy, I don't mean the energy in the sense of energetic, the energy itself, but energy in terms of resources, power, and so competences and the right policies and so on. Then achieving climate neutrality by 2050 becomes a mission possible, as I said, but for the whole of Europe, not only for cities. So that's what I would say.
I indeed expected nothing less from your answer. that cities play a major role, but also have a big responsibility in this in this transition. But you briefly touched upon the COVID-19 pandemic, some of the impacts that had. You seem to say it was in general positive. At the same time, cities have suffered a lot. I would say in this context. Do you think that cities and Europe are on the right path now to be ambitious on a green and sustainable transition when they have suffered so much over the last year and a half?
Well, I think that, as I said, the pandemic has not been positive in that sense, but it has redefined the limits of what is possible. This idea of, yes, we can. And, that I think that should really help. So people have enjoyed bits of the positive implications, less cars, less noise, rediscovering green and, work from home and things like that. So people hopefully have sort of understood, not everyone, but that, that this pandemic also comes from why we have mistreated, from the fact that we have mistreated our planet and its rules. So I think let's hope that people will continue to make these connections and to go on. So that's one element. Then the regulatory impulse of the European Green Deal, as you mentioned at the very beginning, that has started even before the pandemic and means that a lot of legislation is in support of all these transformations that we need, including mobility and so on. So that is a very important element. And then the third is all this sort of money coming in theory, let's hope, in our cities on the next generation EU, as a financial opportunity. So if you put all that together, yes, we should be on the right path. And I think we are, and we will stay on the right path. But we have to make sure that those investments will really come down to cities. Otherwise, it won't work. And that's why, we have really pushed and we are trying to help cities to have a say in the design. Now the plans are closed, so it's sort of difficult to push that in the design, but at least in the, in the governance of the nationally recovery and resilience plans. So we hope it will improve. It hasn't been satisfactory till now, but we really hope that they will understand that they need to work with cities and send investments, channel the investments to the cities. And also what we thought in terms of the Green Deal is that if we want to open even more policymakers' eyes, that mayors and cities can bring the Green Deal to the ground if they have the conditions and the ingredients and the all what goes with it. And for that we have launched, we will launch formally, but we are setting up a Mayors Alliance on the Green Deal to exactly demonstrate that if investments are channeled in cities, then there is hope. And so, yeah. So I think we are in the right path, but we need to give some conditions.
And maybe urban mobility is one of then the key topics in that portion of the European Green Deal. If you were to give a few words on this Eurocities Mobility Forum, what are your expectations? What would you like to get out of it in the next 3 days? What would that be, Annalisa?
I think energy. As I said before, we need to really get the evidence, the conditions. We have to demonstrate that cities can change. I don't want to say that mayors can rule the world and things like that, but I really want to say, moments like this are the time to really demonstrate that energy is there, and we have to use it to actually build forward, not back, forward better.
Build back forward. Okay, that's a nice change.
Build forward better.
less catchy, but maybe more precise in many ways. Thank you. And we are also, I believe, joined by Mr. Jean-Claude Dardelet, Vice Mayor of Toulouse. Jean-Claude, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly. Yes. Good morning, Jean-Claude.
Good morning, everyone.
Jean-Claude, now that you have been able to join us, it would be interesting to hear a few words also from you. We were talking on the big objectives of the EU in terms of becoming a climate neutral continent by 2050 with Annalisa. What would you say still needs to be done at local level in the urban mobility field to achieve that objective?
Yes, thank you, Jean-Paul. Good morning, Annalisa. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you, through screens, hopefully in live. Thank you to Mr. Mayor of Madrid. A special hello to Councillor from Mannheim. So greener and healthier, we all agree it's the big challenge. With the pandemic has created, I would say, difficulties, but also some mission possible, actually. Annalisa mentioned impossible. I think we have interesting leverage. So more or less, we know that think about transport hits cities, and Annalisa said it very well. The cities are, at the center of a lot of things, and maybe in terms of transport, I would say in the middle of everything. So zero emission, of course, in the cities by 2050 is a challenge. We know for sure that transport counts a lot, in this big challenge. We know that the pandemic has also implemented, I would say, some kind of a new deal. The home working of everyone, is something that has and certainly will become a habit. And we see already in many companies some employees who found it so well that they would like to continue, actually. So I think that some habits will change. We will have new sociologies in the cities, which is a good thing. So my second point will be that the cities are different. So certainly, if we want to hit the challenge by 2050, we will have maybe to manage different agendas with different cities. The transport mix will obviously not be the same in all the cities. We don't have the same difficulties to face. The pandemic has also questions more than ever before the type of energy that we want. Of course, electricity is the one that is less carbonized, provided the origin of the electricity is decarbonized. So I think we hear that more and more, and this is a challenge, a question that we need to answer. Another point that the pandemic has brought to our attention is the necessity of a global approach. What we call the resilience is also the way we work, the way we are lodged, more or less, the way we go shopping, the way we have our leisures. In cities we have these 4 items that generate more or less all the transports. And we see for sure that the home working is not the ultimate solution, that people actually want to have a second place to work, but maybe not as far as they had to manage before. So we see already people willing to find another place to work, but close enough to their home, which will reduce their transport time, And we know for sure that the best transport, the most efficient transport, is the transport that you don't do. And certainly these new habits will help minimize the point. So as Annalisa said it, investment is the big point for the public sector, for the cities. The incentivation to the users is another point. So therefore, I see the future with a solution that would be affordable. So affordable for the cities in terms of investment, affordable for the users to buy new transport modes at affordable price. The solution needs to be a time saver. So people don't want, again, to drive hours to go to their home place, and they want to enjoy their time better. And the solution needs to be, I would say, user-friendly. Difficult to force the people to lead them, and we need to encourage them, to incentivize them. And this is the big challenges that we have in front of us. And obviously the European Commission is at the center of this big challenge. And this is what we will be speaking about these next 3 days. So I thank you very much, Jean-Paul.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Claude. And as the chair of the Eurocities Mobility Forum, Jean-Claude, I asked Annalisa the same question. What is your expectation for this Eurocities Mobility Forum? What would you like to see happen in the next 3 days? What would be your ideal and preferred outcome?
Oh, my preferred outcome is that the impetus of people willing to go for it, and we certainly. I think we have everything. We have all the ingredients to go for it. I also think that a few things need to be changed a little bit at Brussels level. Put the cities more at the center of the challenges. There are lots of challenges, and most, if not all, the challenges or the solution, the leverages are in the cities. Annalisa said it well. With 3% of the Earth's surface represented by the cities, 85% of the population in 2050, and 71% of the gas emission. Also, all the interconnections, not between the cities, are also, counts also a lot. And we see all the businessmen maybe traveling less on daily trips, but maybe willing to traveling more for a few days trip. And this is part of the change of habits that we need to tackle, to hold in the cities. How to deal with these visitors, which will have a different types of transport. So, and the Commission will certainly be very helpful of that, provided they put the cities more at the center of all these policies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Annalisa, energy for creating solutions, and Jean-Claude using this forum also as a way of putting cities on the map, right? So shall we say a warm welcome then to all the participants, and thanks very much for having joined us in this opening session, to have answered some of the more general questions, and we will be back live in about 1 minute just to do the quick backstage. And we'll launch the first session of this Eurocities Mobility Forum. Thank you. And welcome back. Just the time to turn down the lights and rearrange the stage, and in the blink of an eye, we're back again live for our first debate session on the urban vaccine, greener mobility for healthier people and planet. In this session, we will explore how active urban mobility can contribute to a greater well-being for citizens by promoting healthy lifestyles and achieving a significant impact on the quality of life in cities. If people move better, cities will breathe cleaner. So, how to establish policies and action that drive these changes towards the ambitious European Green Deal of climate neutrality by 2050? Well, I am joined by 4 city representatives who will be showcasing their best practices and ideas. So let me introduce you to Federico Jimenez de Parga. He is General Mobility Coordinator in the city of Madrid. We have Daniel Helden. He is Vice Mayor for Transport in Stockholm. Felipe Araujo, Vice Mayor and City Councillor for Innovation and Environment in Porto. And Shamu Marton Balog, Head of the Cabinet of the Mayor of Budapest. So a warm welcome to the 4 of you. To launch this discussion, I would like to really hear more practically speaking in terms of what your cities have put in place in terms of strategies to reduce transport emissions and to accelerate the transition towards climate neutrality in the field of urban mobility. So Madrid, what would be then your key strategy that you have put in place? And can you please outline how you have succeeded in achieving that? Felipe. Federico, can you hear me? Yes.
Federico,
okay.
¿me puede escuchar?
Federico, no Felipe, Federico. ¿Puedo hablar, no?
Yes, I can speak now, yes.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Ya puedo intervenir, ¿verdad? Bueno,
yes, I can start now. Before, I think it would be important to talk about the other European cities, because Madrid is the second most populated city in Europe, and there's more than 50 million people, and this is also including visitors, and about a third part of these, a lot of this is using public transport, and there's lots of the use of buses is very high. And we also have lots of bus lines which move a lot of people, and this has also been reduced with the pandemic. And as I said, a third part of the mobility in Madrid is on public transport, and a third of it is using, for example, private cars, and the other third is, for example, with scooters or bicycles. What the Town Council of Madrid has done is, like any town hall, we're trying to really achieve a balance in the city between the old forms of transport and the new ones, which are personal forms of mobility. We are very aware of the changes, the historical changes that are happening in all cities after COVID. And what we want to do is maintain and change the different ways of movement in a more sustainable way. And we have to change this in an adequate way, taking into consideration, very important, the contamination. To not talk about this for too long, I must say about sustainability and the road safety and the integration of all of the forms of mobility. And what we want to do is create some zones where the vehicles can go in a place with low emissions, and a specific place close to the Puerta del Sol, and then establish a very strong policy in order to reduce the emissions. These are the main policies that we have decided to implement in Madrid to fight these problems of contamination and the new challenges that we want to take on after COVID.
Okay, ambitious plans in a populated city. Accompanying change and transforming the way people move is not an easy task. So, good luck with that in Madrid. In Stockholm, what strategy has your city then put in place to reduce transport emissions?
Well, in Stockholm, we have the goal to have a fossil-free city by 2040, and also a climate-positive city. So we're going to remove all emissions from the city by then. Then we have a goal that says that 70% of all the emissions from the traffic will be removed by 2030. And this is crucial to manage all these things in Stockholm. We can't make a better city if we don't remove the climate emissions. Of course, we need to reduce all air pollution and get rid of a lot of the noise in the city. Of course, when we're doing this, we have ambitious goals for cycling and walking. We are building new metro lines and tram lines and everything. And this is a huge investment we are doing. And under my 7 years as a vice mayor, I've been working on especially the cycling infrastructure. So we can see now, even though COVID is here, the amount of cyclists are huge. But we have reached the conclusion that all those mobility services won't make it possible for us to reach the goal. So we are now working on a new goal. And that says that 1/3 of the city will be a city where only electric cars will be driving by 2030. So this is the new goal we are working on. And we know that this is what we need to do. And if we can manage this, of course, we know we need the national government to change some laws, but we know that if we are going to manage this, we will have the city that copes with European goals, the national goals, and we can go further on and change the city to a much more healthier city, because when we make 1/3 of the city electric city, we will get rid of not only the CO2 emissions, but also air pollution, which is a big problem, and we will get rid of a lot of noise. So this is what we are working on just now in Stockholm. I hope I can come back and tell you further on how we have managed to do this change, which I would say is some sort of paradigm shift we are working on.
You will absolutely elaborate on that. So electrification, but also active mobility with cycling, maybe particularly as one of those options. Okay, and we'll be hearing more from you certainly. If we then go to Porto, what strategy has your city put in place to reduce transport emissions?
Hi everyone. First of all, it's great to participate in the Mobility Forum, especially as the chair of the Environment Forum. It's good to promote this interconnection between different forums. I think it's a goal that's common to all the Eurocities strategy. So it's very good to be here. Well, a special greeting, first of all, to the mobility chair, to Jean-Claude Dardelet, and to all the colleagues of the panel, to the forum participants, and of course to the Madrid team for the organization. Well, summarizing a little bit what Porto has been doing. So since 2004, Porto already decreased 36% of the greenhouse gas emissions. So the last figures that we have is from the 2018, so 36% between 2004 and 2018. But I believe that Porto can go faster and of course very aligned with the ambitions of the other European cities to achieve our goals, our common goals, as I would say. So to highlight some of the measures and to give concrete examples of the things that we have been doing on transport that we are putting in place in Porto, and the goal is of course to achieve the climate neutrality targets until 2050, maybe before. So first of all, we act on the things that we can control. So for example, our entire municipal fleet of vehicles is now 70% electrical or hybrid plug-in, and the other 30% are not, because at the time that we launched the last bid, there weren't in the market available vehicles, electric vehicles for that kind of type. So now we are preparing the new contract and we want to go with more ambitious numbers. Then it's not only having electric vehicles, is to power them with renewable energy. So in the municipality right now, we only buy 100% renewable energy from renewable sources. So energy that we consume in the municipality, from the public lighting to the vehicles, to the electric vehicles, comes from renewable sources. Then we are looking to our own heavy fleets, for example, for waste collection. And we have, now it's only natural gas that we use. And of course, we are looking to so new vehicles using natural gas, because as we know, it's still very difficult to buy them electric or other, or hydrogen, for example. On the municipal bus company, we have now already most of the fleet renewal, and so it's new buses and also natural gas. But we already have a good percentage of electrical buses that we are using in the city. We will be deploying new metro lines. So right now it's one under construction, already started. On the other hand, that I already heard Dardelet speaking, is we have to look to the other parts. What are the other parts? It's not only the good and non-polluted vehicles, is on the tariff side, so they and the accessibility. And in Porto right now, a metropolitan monthly ticket costs 40 euros and the city ticket only 30 euros. So we reduce and we slash the prices a lot. If you have less than 18 years old, it's free to ride all the metro, buses or trains around the metropolitan area. And we are increasing, so we made 35 new kilometers of cycling lanes. So we're increasing also this mode of transport. And another part is, of course, the pedestrian zones that we are with the new ways of using the streets in order to give back the people their place instead of having the streets for the cars as we are used in the last years. So this is more or less to summarize some of the ideas that we have been putting in place.
Thanks, and we see a great image there of the before and after in Porto, where you're able to remove cars from the street and add more pedestrians, which is never an easy thing to do in some neighborhoods. So thanks for that overview. And if we then go to Budapest, Shamu, some of your plans in Budapest to reduce transport emissions.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for organizing all this forum. So about Budapest, I'm happy to tell you that we have just created our new urban development strategy, which is following a completely new agenda about how to solve our problems. Because in Budapest, of course, we can see a lot of problems connected to mobility. On the first place, it's about suburbanization. The city is losing its inhabitants, and more people are moving out. And of course, it causes a lot of problem about congestion and commuting from the agglomeration. So this is maybe the first or the top one problem in Budapest, but it might be shocking in this panel, but I can say that we don't believe that it can be solved by mobility solutions. So this is a mobility problem what cannot be solved by mobility solutions, and we've seen that we have to find the roots where this is coming from. And what we see is the very high prices of housing, the low level of quality of housing, and the reducing green in our cities. So what we are looking for is more changing how the city is built up, and following more the 15-minute city concept, so we can make an attractive city for people living here, because a lot of people who are commuting from the agglomeration, they work here, they meet people here, they have fun here, they go to school in Budapest, but they cannot find affordable housing within the city, so they have to move out. And this is what we have to stop. So if we stop moving out from the city, then we can recreate Budapest, and the mobility needs will reduce. And then, of course, emission will also be reduced. So this is the main idea of the new concept, maybe just in a few words. And yes, thank you for showing the picture, because it's interesting. This is one section of the embankment of River Danube in Budapest. And this is the very day, just today, when we started the reconstruction of this very section. So we will reduce the space for cars in this part, and we will create a new pedestrian alley. And of course, we will plant trees. So maybe in half a year, this section on the picture will look completely different. And in the right picture, you can see how even with temporary solutions, we can use these spaces differently. And this is something very important because a lot of people cannot imagine how things can be changed or different, and that we have to do this shift. So this is a very nice story in Budapest, because we could show people with temporary solutions how it can be different. And now, just today, we start this project, which will end up with a pedestrian-friendly embankment by the River Danube.
Thanks, Shamu. And you bring in there also a certain concept, let's say, of social justice and accessibility, which has a huge impact on the way that urban mobility infrastructure is organized. So that's maybe something that the other panelists could maybe also reflect on. If I go back to Stockholm, maybe first on you mentioned this very high ambition, the impact of electrification and cycling. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you anticipate there on electrification? I suppose there's maybe the question of reserving certain zones within the city only to electric vehicles. Can you maybe outline a little bit further what some of those challenges may be?
Well, first of all, the biggest challenge is of course to make the inhabitants to accept this. But that's what we are doing as politicians. Well, in Stockholm, we have the congestion charging system, where the center parts, which is 1/3 of the city and 1/3 of the inhabitants that are living, which is inside this congestion charging system. We have had this since 2006. And what we're going to do is to change the incentives, so electric cars will have a lower fee when they're going into the city, and all combustion engines we want to remove by incentives. And we are going to well, we have to talk to the national government to change the parking law so we can have different taxes when you are parking in the city. And this is a challenge, but we think everybody in Sweden says that we are going to manage all these goals, and we need to manage them and find ways. And by this, working with congestion charges, parking fees, we know that we are going to manage this goal by 2030. And then we are working on a big outrolling of electrification, or I would say charging infrastructure in Stockholm. We are working on those goals, and we are changing our parking company. Now they are going to have half of the parking lots will have charging stations, and they are preparing for 100%. And we're working with the businesses and all the private sector to make this change. All the inhabitants that are living in houses that are not owned by the city, we're going to make some incentives so they will be able to go this way. So this is a challenge, but we know, and we have come together in Stockholm politically, that we are going to go this way. And in the same time, of course, we are going to go on with this. You see the picture, people are cycling. This is outside the city hall. And there are a lot of people cycling, a lot of people walking and going by public transportations, and all those things together. We think we are going to manage it, and people will accept it.
Yeah, because reducing congestion is not just a question of electrification. I mean, it's also a question of alternative modes. So cycling may indeed play a role there. If we go back to Madrid, so for our interpreter to prepare to make the switch, what about health and well-being of people in a city, and how can you bring in the healthy lifestyle elements into the change of urban mobility solution? Is that something that you're able to influence the Madrileños with? Are they more prone to take healthy options? And is there a moment in the transition of a city where healthy lifestyles become more attractive because maybe the quality of life in the city has improved?
Yes, we always are based on the fact that the free choice of the citizens when it comes to travelling is fundamental. That's their freedom, and we believe that's very necessary for each person. And based on this, with the public administration and the town hall, we want to encourage people to use more healthier forms of transport, as I said before, in the second biggest populated city in Europe. And this means really investing in vehicles that are less contaminating and also encouraging the use of electric bikes, which belong to the city, which allow people to travel around the center of Madrid. And this policy has led us to create and install a large number of bicycle racks so that people can use them. And what's really vital is that we've also found that with COVID, there has been a really big change in the forms of moving around the city, especially the use of personal private cars and also the use of public transport. Madrid, as a big European city, has really had a big problem, which is finding a balance between the use of private vehicles and the rights of pedestrians, for example, in terms of parkings and also in the surroundings of the cities. And we're carrying out right now, we're being very careful with where people can park their electric bikes to protect the pedestrians, because we really need a balance between the rights of the people who use bikes and the people who are going along walking. So we really need to find a balance between the people using scooters and bikes and the people walking. Another thing that we're really encouraging is making the transport a lot more healthy and using buses. And we're also fighting for big zones where the pedestrians can walk, for example, in the Puerta del Sol, in La Plaza Mayor, and in every district, we're trying to have some pedestrian spaces where the pedestrians can be safe. And we're also trying to make 2 low emission zones, for example, in the Puerta del Sol and the Plaza Mayor, where there's going to be where we're really going to use less contaminating vehicles. So we're limiting the contaminating vehicles, and we're also promoting public transport and a balance and ordering correctly all of the modes of transport which are going through the city.
Okay, thanks for those clarifications. And in Porto, if I may, in your first intervention, you focused, I would say, a lot on what the municipal level could do directly on, for instance, the municipal fleet for waste collection and those types of infrastructure. I'd be keen to hear a little bit from you also on some of the transformational aspects in terms of behavior, the way people actually move in your city, and some of the challenges that you have faced in creating new spaces or promoting alternative modes of transport.
Well, definitely, it's always a challenge if you want to change things, as we have heard before. So if you want to make this transition that we are all talking about happen, you have really to focus on the possibility of changing things sometimes in a disruptive way. What we have seen is that during the pandemic, we have had the opportunity to experiment, let's say, or to test some of these models. And what we have seen is also people during this time have been more or paying more attention to since they were most of the time at their houses, they were paying much more attention to the public space and how it was used. So when we start talking and putting in place these ideas, the people were very keen on having them, especially when they were near their houses, where they had the opportunity, for example, in a street that was most of the time occupied by the cars and with traffic, to have the opportunity to go with their children riding a bike or having just chairs in the middle of the pavement and having there some activities that we were promoting. So this was very welcome for people. But we know when you are managing a city, you have the different positions, and you have always to try to make a consensus when you are able to do it. Although I believe right now we have the good opportunity to accelerate the change and to, like I said in the beginning, during the last decades, we were giving the space to the cars. Now it's time to get it back to the people.
So it's not just a question of electrification of cars, of private cars. In your case, it's really building on the momentum of this new way of living the city that, in a way, the pandemic has created by some of these lockdown measures that removed cars from the streets. Okay, thanks. And in Budapest, then, how can you bring in more active urban mobility solutions? You mentioned that it wasn't necessarily the solution to some of the challenges that you face in Budapest. Nevertheless, you were creating these bicycle lanes along the Danube. So can you just explain a little bit what that mix will look like in the future in Budapest?
Yes, as I said before, we believe in the concept of the 15 minutes city, and just in the past 1.5 years, we created those missing links of the cycling infrastructure, which was really missing, and now we have a connected network. Of course, there's a lot to do with creating new links, and of course with providing higher quality for bikers. But I really believe that our mobility problems cannot be solved without housing solutions. And if we are talking about how to achieve the emission targets, that of course in Budapest, just like in other cities, that greenhouse gases are coming from one part from the mobility, but of course from the housing stock. So that brings up again the same topic, that we need to have not only fair prices, but also good quality when it comes to the energy efficiency of these houses. So these together can create what we call the 15 minutes city, and that can help to reduce the emission of gases. Another topic what we are really focusing on is the road safety. So in Budapest, we see that every week there is a fatal accident, which is unacceptable, of course. And we are looking at Oslo and Helsinki and other cities that have reached almost zero mortal accidents on streets of their cities. So this is something else that we are also looking at as a goal to achieve. And of course, you are right that active transport and cycling, walking can be a solution in both ways, both for the healthier mobility and also for the higher road safety.
Maybe then a comment from Stockholm on this question of safety. How does that play out in Stockholm? Do you have any measures in place in terms of safety that would help maybe accompany this shift? You're relying a lot on people to make big changes, so are you able to provide the right infrastructure for them?
Of course. Well, we are building a lot of cycle lanes to make it more safe, and of course we are working along the zero vision for accidents. Nobody should get killed in an accident in the traffic. So we are trying to change all the city by lowering the speed. That's one of the biggest things we are doing. So we're going down to 30 kilometers as nearly the most common speed in Stockholm. And this makes it possible to get rid of fatal accidents. And we are rebuilding a lot of streets and changing the way people are driving. And what we are thinking about now is when we're going out, changing to electric cars. Electric cars are well, all cars, but especially electric cars are cars with computers. So we are working on trying to implement a geofencing system that makes it impossible for the cars to drive faster speed than what we have put on the signs. And this, I think, could be make a drastic change in the city.
I wonder on this topic, you know how you would need a driver's license to drive a car. The more you have other urban mobility solutions, do you think that they will, in the end, also require some sort of license, or at least a basic education that would be certified to have people on different options on the roads? Is this something that you think should be considered? Maybe a question first to Porto and then to Madrid.
Well, I think the first of all is not so much the license, but the education. I think it's something that we need to promote a lot on the way that we are seeing people using the new type of transport, especially the cycling or other things that we need. My opinion is that the cities of the future will be the cities that will promote these ways of so cycling and others, but also the public transport, which has to be, like I said, affordable. It has to be time competitive with other means of transport, and we need the capability of moving large numbers of people from one side to another where they really want to be, instead of using their own cars. So that's more or less how I see things, although I believe that for some new types of transport, maybe we need some kind of regulation, maybe in the future some licensing.
Yeah, because it's not so easy to have all these urban mobility solutions coexisting without any risk of them, interconnecting at one point in an unfortunate manner. In Madrid, do you take this question of safety as an important measure, even maybe as a barrier to change in some cases for people living in Madrid?
In Madrid, there's a law that means the speed in Madrid they can only go 30 miles an hour, and outside it can be 50. There is a big problem with implementing these measures, and I do know that the most important thing is that, as I said before, that there needs to be very good road safety education, and this should be modified with the new modes of transport. For people in Madrid are going to be using the electric municipal vehicles. These these changes are new, so this requires education and changing laws, because lots of the users are tourists who are foreign and they don't know the laws of the town transport. So based on this, the most vital thing is that people must be aware of the new ways of transport, that they have to really have a general knowledge about road safety, and they have to know where they can go or not, and they have to apply common knowledge. And they shouldn't be going more than 30 an hour, and we need to use common sense so that people use them in a coherent and balanced way and a sensible way, especially the new forms of transport. And as for the laws regarding the speed limit, we're working on this. And we have to really implement a speed limit in Madrid, and only the private cars can go 30 miles an hour and up to 50 in some cases.
Okay, is the speed limit something that you have also in place in Budapest, Shamu? Can you elaborate also on some of the measures that you put in place to increase safety?
Yes, exactly. This is a hot topic with Budapest. Actually, last year we initiated a new goal of lowering the speed limit and create 30 kilometer per hour zones in the living neighborhoods, and it created a huge debate about this tool. That is it necessary, or is it something to do in a city like Budapest? And of course, a lot of people see that in other cities, other European cities, this is something that they are creating as well. And even if you count on the average speed of cars today in the city like Budapest, it's no more than 30 kilometers per hour. So it shouldn't be something. But certainly we still need a lot of education to understand the role of speed limit in cases of accidents, for example. So this is something that we are working on, but we have to be also careful, because we have to tell people why it is important and why it is useful for their daily habit, instead of just being a burden, which worsen their mobility solutions even more.
Yeah, because in a congested city, it can even go down to 0 kilometers per hour for a good while. But as soon as you impose 30, it's a slightly different reaction sometimes. If I go back to Felipe in Porto, at the beginning you mentioned the importance of building bridges between the different activities inside Eurocities, and you hosted recently, I believe, the Eurocities Environment Forum, and you're also the chair of that forum. Can you tell us a little bit if there are any key takeaways that you got from that meeting that could be also helpful for us in understanding some of the changes that are required in this field, urban mobility and transport?
Well, for sure, yes. We just hosted the Environment Forum, digital one, this one. But I will summarize a little bit of the things that we have been discussing there. For cities, well, first of all, it's crucial that we know what we were discussing, that it's crucial for them to assume a new way of doing things, let's say, based on carbon neutrality, to respecting the ecological capacity of the planet, and also something that cities have been stressing, to be socially just. Which means that the new economy that works for the people and works with the safer operating space of the earth. That's more or less what we are looking for. So we have big challenges ahead, the economical, social, and we are aware also that we have to support innovation, technology, and especially moving beyond silos as we are doing here. And the new way of doing things is already here, and we just need to tap into it. After the big shock of the pandemic, I believe we are all working very hard in our municipalities and regions to go beyond the superficial, let's say, approaches that were easily take us into the initial condition. So before the pandemic, we don't want definitely to reenact the post-1908 economic crisis in which everything went very rapidly to the usual track, and little structural change was made. So it's now that in the Environment Forum we discussed this very much. So we have the opportunity, we have to take the lead. Cities have to take the lead. So the transition definitely starts with some disruption. This was a key message coming from the Environment Forum, where we explored how we can transition to sustainability. And we know that sustainability right now it's a bit of buzzword. So we really looked at the science behind what it means to live sustainably and the transition management to get us there. So it's more or less what we were discussing. We know definitely that sustainability can be defined by our planetary boundaries. So ozone depletion, climate change, biosphere integrity. So we are talking about biodiversity, ocean acidification, global hydrologic cycle, so chemical pollution, land system change, geochemical cycles of nitrogen and phosphorus, and also atmospheric aerosol loading. So this is more or less the planet boundaries that we are leading or dealing with right now. We have a very nice intervention for Catherine Richardson, which is a professor at the University of Copenhagen, and she highlighted that the links between the global and local, so was our local actions impacting these planetary boundaries, and explain to us that we are already crossing several of these boundaries. So this is very important, especially the ones related with climate and biodiversity, as we have heard from many institutions. And so to live safely within the means of our planet, in other words, to move us to the path of sustainability, we need to be proactive, to engage, and to push this transformative change. So cities have the power to do this as we set the policies. We have the knowledge, the technology, and where people come together. And we have to seek a diversity of solutions to move forward, as we have been hearing here in terms of mobility. So to move us back within the climate boundary, so we need, and we know that one of the biggest areas that we have to focus is the transport area. So it requires 90% reduction in transport emissions by 2030. So this means that strengthening public transport with zero emissions and affordable, so the price and time competitive, it's very, very important. So we should also, of course, we have heard to strengthen the other types of modes of travel, cycling, walking, rethinking the public space, as I mentioned before. So many of these topics were around during the Environment Forum, and this could be and should be combined with green and biodiverse corridors, so to maintain healthy the city. So we have a good opportunity. 37% of the Resilience and Recovery Facility funding will be dedicated or has to be dedicated to green transition and climate goals. So we have a good opportunity to fight against pollution in the source of cities. So we have been talking also the Environment Forum about the charging infrastructure for EV buses, the power of cities to push the public transport beyond and to influence the markets in this direction. We have heard, for example, from Oslo and Helsinki, who are using their purchase power to drive the market for electric construction vehicles to reduce air and noise pollution. So indefinitely, the crisis has had unexpected environmental benefits. So we have had the opportunity to have less noise in our cities, less congestion, less pollution. So somehow people were shown that it's possible to have a cleaner, a greener, a quieter and sustainable city. So I think we have a very good opportunity, as was stressed in this forum. We have heard also in the Economic Development Forum in March that we need to use our recovery to drive the transition and not to waste time investing in other areas that will not push us to a sustainable path. So we need to continue collaborating and sharing the ideas. So these were more or less the big thoughts that came out of the Environment Forum. And I believe that for what I'm hearing here in the mobility, we are very much aligned.
Yeah, it seems aligned, but it also places a huge responsibility on this urban mobility sector to meet these big challenges. I think we have to gradually wrap up. I would like to wrap up with two very short questions to each of you. The first one, I will go to Danielle first. Innovation, right? Felipe mentioned it. Innovation is really part of the mix. What would be your key innovation that is necessary to meet these big and ambitious climate targets?
Well, I would say I think the innovation is geofencing. I would say that's my word.
Okay, and I stay with you, Danielle. The three key ingredients that for you are necessary for this urban mobility vaccine that we mentioned in the title of this event. 3 words, 3 concepts, 3 key ingredients.
Electrification, reducing traffic, and promoting walking, cycling, and public transportations.
Perfect. Very succinct. Thank you very much, Danielle, for having been part of this panel. If I go then to Madrid, Federico, the key innovation that is necessary to meet these ambitious targets.
Lo fundamental es
the most important thing
establecer un nuevo sistema,
establishing a system with which the citizens can choose their mode of transport. Public transport should be very sustainable with the city buses, and we're working very hard so this can be sustainable as much as possible. And the new modes of transport which the users are using, the users must be aware that using the most contaminating vehicles of private use, these should really not be encouraged. And we must promote the personal transport means such as bicycles, and there should be a harmony and a balance between all the modes of transport, and always based on sustainability. And with the new ways of transport, we're working towards a cleaner society which is more balanced and which is less polluting.
Okay, very, very clear. Thank you very much, Federico, for having joined this panel and shared your experience in Madrid. If I now go then to Shamu in Budapest, the key innovation necessary.
Key innovation. Well, we have to find somehow to reduce congestion and reduce car use. I don't know if anyone invented this innovation, but we need this. But maybe all other cities are looking for something similar.
Okay, so a sort of a magic wand to remove congestion. And what would be then your key ingredients for this urban mobility vaccine?
Well, if I have to say 3, I would say the 15-minute city. I would say accessibility over mobility. Maybe we didn't talk about this much, but this is the second, and the third is active and low-speed mobility.
Perfect. Very succinct. Thank you very much, Shamu, for having shared your experience in Budapest. And if I go then to Felipe in Porto, your key innovation and your 3 key ingredients for the urban mobility vaccine.
Okay, very good. Very shortly. First of all, I believe that definitely if we want a transition, if you want a change, and I mentioned that sometimes it has to be disruptive, we need data. We need definitely to have the power of having the data, the correct data that's already available but not shared by everyone, to have the correct decisions, to inform the people correctly, for them to choose their way of transport, to promote intermodality, or even to measure the things that the measures that we are putting in place. So this, I think, it's very important and transversal in many areas. And the three words, I would say, and stress something that you have already heard, but I would say the urban mobility of the future will be public, will be affordable, and will be zero emissions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Felipe, and also for having brought in the perspective from the Environment Forum. I think it's useful for the whole Eurocities network to hear that. So thank you very much to the four of you for having joined this panel and shared your experiences. I would like now to turn briefly to Jean-Claude, back to Jean-Claude Dardelet, who's joining us from Toulouse. Yeah, some reflections on what was discussed. It was quite a rich panel. We see the size of the challenge, but also some creative solutions in cities. So it'll be good to hear from you on your reflections. And just remember to hit the unmute button.
Thank you, Jean-Paul, and thank you to all the contributors. It has been very rich. So I've been asked to make a quick summary of what have been said, and this is quite a challenge because this is very rich. Actually, I put a few words on a piece of paper right now. I think we all agree that we are facing a new agenda. Each of us have a new agenda in front of us. Things are changing. This is important. I took the point, an important point that was mentioned at the very beginning. This is the demography changes. Some cities are losing citizens. Some cities are, welcoming new citizens. So it raises the question of, what cities do we want? Do we want more or do we want less? Actually, do we want to control it? Actually, can we? It's not certain. But there is a big question on demography. I understood that we want to change the cities. The word electric cities has been mentioned. I like it. I take it. We want electric cities, but what kind of electricity is the question. We spoke a lot of pollutions, greenhouse gas, noise. Well-being is the challenge. And more or less, if I want to summarize, we want everything to go quicker, better, and cheaper. And thanks to the COVID, I think we want it to be fast and furious, actually. We want to go, we need to accelerate everything. Something also I liked a lot is the focus what we need to put on what we control. Just saying nice sentences is nice, but we are responsible for our cities and we need to focus on what we control. So affordability has been mentioned several times, active transport, but active transport is something, we need to manage the volume. If I take the example of Toulouse, we have 4 million daily displacement. If we want them all with bicycles, it's just impossible. So it's really a mix. It has been mentioned several times as well. It's a mix that needs to hit the specificities of each of our cities. And, there will not be one single solution for everyone. Safety and social justice has been mentioned several times. This is very important. And in the last, in the conclusion, when I would say the main challenge is connecting the people in a more sustainable way. Our job is just about connecting the people, and the innovations. If I want to summarize the innovations that have been mentioned, I think we need to be innovative in new policies, new economical model, new technologies. Data has been mentioned, new social environment, and new regulations. The innovations is also multidisciplinary. It's not only silicium, silicones. It's also social innovations, etc. The 15-minute cities, and there are very interesting words, and at first glance they look very interesting, attractive. But 15-minute cities for whom? You know, if it's just for the citizen who live in a house inside the cities with a lot of grass and trees everywhere, everything around him, what about all the people, the workers who come from outside for whom to work in the cities to make our life easier? How do they cope with our 15-minute cities with their 2 hours transport to make our 15-minute cities? You know, this is also the good ideas, which sometimes are maybe not good for everyone. So we need to take it. So more or less, the subject is to see it globally, and this is where the Commission, Brussels, has an outstanding role to do with us in the near future. And certainly, listening to you all, I think we are all expecting these new discussions with the Commission. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. And indeed, we'll be speaking with a representative of the European Commission in the next session. You mentioned fast and furious in terms of the change and the transformation that is required in cities, but without any accidents. I think that was also very clear and coming out very clearly in the discussion that road safety is a very important component for accompanying that change. So thank you very much to all of you. We will be back in 20 minutes live for the next session. In the meantime, feel free to explore some of the functionalities of the platform. You can engage in direct bilateral conversations with other participants in the Hop-In platform. Make use of that. You can visit the exhibition space, but make sure that you are back in 20 minutes on the main stage, where we will be discussing the future EU urban mobility framework. So see you in 20 minutes.